The best comparison between mine diamond and lab-grown diamonds, it's IVF babies. And it's gonna shock, but the result is the same. It's just the way it's made is different. And again, as an image, you don't introduce your baby as my IVF baby. You're introducing it as your baby. It's just that it was you needed some help, but in people's mind, because they have such a hard time processing the fact that the two diamonds are chemically, aesthetically the same. It's just one was made under the earth, the other one was laid above the earth. That's it.
I think a good example for this that I often use is, electro mobility. In the beginning, people were super hesitant. The car has been sold, the engine, the burning engine has been sold through emotion, and people were super hesitant. Is this a real car? and everything has changed ever since. We see big players in the luxury industry start to embrace lab-grown diamonds. Prada created a specific product in the shape of their logo, a beautiful creative example, but also LVMH, they had invested in a grower earlier on. So I think the luxury industry as a whole starts to embrace lab-grown diamonds, and will continue to do so.
Welcome to Luxury on Air, where we explore the trends, innovations, and personalities defining and redefining the luxury industry.
Synthetic diamonds, laboratory-grown diamonds, man-made diamonds. We have heard of a lot of definitions of what now is commonly called lab-grown diamonds. These diamonds are in opposition with natural diamonds, called as well mine-grown diamonds. In terms of market share, if lab-grown diamonds were estimated by Morgan Stanley in 2020 to over 7% of the market, the growth has been quite exponential, to move to estimated 18% of the market in 2024. These lab-grown diamonds come mainly from China and India. That's why I'm wearing an Indian dress today. What has made the market grow so fast? How to distinguish a lab-grown diamond from a mine-grown diamond? Who are the consumers acquiring this new type of diamonds? Are lab-grown diamonds used in a similar way than naturals in the jewelry and watch industry? Which are the new trends crystallizing? My name is Karine Szegedi, and I'm very gifted to have two experts with me today to unpack all of these topics during our first podcast of the 5th season of Luxury on Air, exploring the trends of the luxury industry. My first guest today is an actor that plays fully in the Swiss markets. I'm pleased to welcome Niels Schäfer, co-founder and a pioneering sustainable diamond jewelry brand LOEV. LOEV, a company founded in 2022, is fully committed to ethical production using only lab-grown diamonds and precious gem created from renewable energy, as well as recycled precious metals. My second guest is one of the fine experts in the jewelry market, founder of the Eye of Jewelry and lab-grown lover, Eleonor Picciotto. She's a passionate observer of everything and everyone gravitating around the industry. Eleonor, Niels, I'm so thrilled to have both of you with me today. I have to say, considering your travel schedules, the year end and everything, it was quite, it's a very achievement by itself that we are here, all three of us, recording this podcast. Welcome to Luxury on Air.
Thank you very much.
And Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you to welcoming us to talk about this passionate topic, which I'm sure with the kickoff of 2025 will be something we will surely hear about in the next coming month, if not years.
Yes, indeed. In our background discussions preparing this podcast, we already realized that there's a lot of interest in all our surroundings in this topic. So let's just kick off maybe with the basics. I mean, the podcast here as well is to unpack, to understand, to educate, to give examples. And I think you, with both of you, will have a great all-round on these questions. So let's just kick off to say, what are lab-grown diamonds? And is there what are the main differences, and are there differences with mine-grown diamonds? Maybe Niels, do you want to start?
Yes, happy to take this, Karine. Thank you. So I think maybe, let's start with the basics. A lab-grown diamond essentially is a real diamond, and it is exactly the same as a mined diamond. Both are chemically, physically, and optically identical. Essentially, the only difference is where they are from. As we have seen, the demand for lab-grown diamonds is growing rapidly, and we believe that they truly foster creativity and offer, more creativity and more design at attractive price points, leading to now in 2024, every second engagement ring in the US, for example, is being a lab-grown diamond ring.
So Eleanor, I mean, can you really see with your eyes the difference of the diamonds? And is it only white diamonds, or can colored gemstones be replaced by lab-grown as well?
So to answer your first question, there is no difference between a lab-grown diamond and a mined diamond with your eyes. As Niels just pointed out, it is chemically the same thing. So how do you differentiate one from the other? You need a specific laser, you need a specific machine in order to see the difference. Now, on a consumer perspective, when you buy a lab-grown versus a mined diamond, you need to be aware and educated, and the person who's selling you the diamond needs to be completely straightforward with you. Also, you need to ask for certificates, because just like mined diamonds, lab-grown diamonds are being provided with certificates, which will basically, it will be this piece of paper that would officially explain what is the difference between from one to the other. Now, in responding to your second questions, the difference, as I said, is, well, there's none. You cannot see it with your eyes. And as a consumer, you can see it in the difference of value proposition that some brands may offer versus none. And what I found, and it's an example that I always take, it's right now the big struggle between lab-grown diamonds and mined diamonds, it really comes down to education. Not a lot of people know about lab-grown diamonds, even professional, and we'll get into this later in the podcast on how the lobby of major brands or the lobby of the industry per se have given a lot of not misinformation, but also in the naming of lab-grown versus mined versus synthetic versus fake diamonds. All of this is just adding more confusion to the end consumer, who then doesn't really know what start and where to go to. And I'm sure, Niels, in creating your brand, it's something that you struggle on a daily basis, because like every single industry, education is key. And in order to be well educated, you need to be knowledgeable, you need to be expert in your own field. You need to go and get the information to the right people in order to give it and transmit back to the people. And that's why journalists, I'm a journalist myself, and journalists who do the same things as I do, even though we may not have the same perspective on lab-grown diamonds versus mine, the information remains the same. And our job is to communicate this information the best and most transparent way.
Thank you, Eleanor. A lot of answers, and maybe Niels, to build on that. You mentioned that 1 out of 2 engagement rings in the US is now lab grown, so meaning that customer acceptance in the US seems to be high. Maybe can we just switch as well? You created your brand, Eleanor mentioned, we mentioned in 2022, so it's young and fresh. Why did you create it? And how educated are the consumers that come and see you?
I think, that's super interesting. We started with LOEV in 2022, and it was really, at the time, there was really nothing in Switzerland and also across Europe. There hasn't really been a big offering yet, though, as you said, in the United States, the market was already growing fast. That has a lot to do with also that there has been some of the early bigger growers that really invested in the topic also publicly, with celebrity investors like Leonardo DiCaprio, who invested in a grower, for example, got a lot of visibility. And, that's why, America obviously picked up first. But at that time, every market, especially in Europe, so fragmented, was different. I think when we started in Switzerland back in 2022, I'd say almost 9 out of 10 people, they didn't really know anything about the concept yet. And at this time, when you haven't heard about the idea or the concept of a lab-grown diamond, that we have the possibility to recreate the circumstances under which a diamond grows and is formed in a lab, and create the identical product with obviously sustainability advantages, more transparent maybe also, and maybe other factors that are different to a mined stone. These consumers, they still had, the storyline in mind that has been driven by the big, the big players in the market, the mining industry for 100 years. And so there is, due to when this market started to be disrupted by lab-grown diamond, a lot of it, as Eleonor also just said, was about education. It started with back in the day that at first, it had to be said that both were to be called a diamond. And I mean, it's even funny, as they are, chemically identical, physically identical. And, a lot has happened since, I think now, and that has definitely also for us as a brand, provided us with a big boost. We were the first brand to introduce the concept to Switzerland, creating our own collections from scratch with the sole focus of promoting lab-grown diamonds and its advantages. And only using the best material available, only diamonds that are created with renewable energy, which is extremely important because energy is the most important factor when it comes to sustainability and how sustainable a lab-grown diamond actually is. And now, going back to the start of your question, the market is growing so rapidly and leading to this point now where really every second engagement ring in the United States is created with a lab-grown ring. Europe is a little bit behind as often. And also here, funny enough, some countries even more than others. But especially here in Switzerland, we see a lot of development, especially among younger consumers.
Interesting. So education, we need more. There is some already. You mentioned that in 2022, 9 out of 10 didn't know, so that it's progressing. Let's maybe, before we speak again about consumer acceptance, pricing. What is the price differential between a lab-grown diamond and a mine-grown diamond? Because that's the fundamental question that all consumers are asking themselves. What was the difference maybe 5 years ago, now? And will both hold their value in a similar way? Who wants to start?
I guess it depends on the day. Because Niels, you probably have bigger numbers and more accurate numbers than I do because, but what I want to say is obviously when you think about investment, maybe I start with the investment before we get into the pricing, because when it was first introduced, globally introduced, because the first lab-grown diamond was founded in 1953. So it was not like 10 or 15 years ago. It was 1953. And that's something that a lot of people don't know about. Obviously, with the rise of technology and world consumption, this and that, we've seen a lot of lab-grown diamonds being created in different markets. So when we first heard about lab-grown diamond, I remember that we were talking about minus 30%, minus 40% in terms of pricing from what a natural diamond can cost. Truth is, you can have a 10 plus factor, or you can have a 3 plus factor. It depends. And again, cut me if I'm wrong, Niels, but to my understanding and from what I see when I have also clients asking me for specific lab-grown versus mine diamond creations, and I can speak on my own experiences, based on if you want a larger size, 1, 2, 3, 4 plus carat, you will have a margin which is much higher than tiny diamonds that are used for pavage, for example. And that's how you can. And that's why it's not really a black or white answer. I can't tell you, well, a lab-grown diamond is 10 times less expensive or 3 times less expensive than a mine diamond. But also, not to add more confusion to the people who are listening to us, there's not one single rule. And it's not because you're getting this that you can actually add the actual number times 3, times 10, times 12. Of course, lab-grown diamonds are less expensive than mine diamonds. That's a fact. Now, you need to take into consideration that when you're paving a wedding band and on the band you have, let's say, 30 diamonds that are 10 pointers, you will pay the exact same price to set this diamond. So one tiny diamond, maybe making this up, but maybe 35 Swiss francs if it's a lab. No, sorry. 35 francs if it's a natural mine diamond versus 10 francs if it's a lab-grown diamond. But the amount that you're going to spend to set this stone is going to be the same. So are you going to be saving that much money if you're doing like a pavage piece of jewelry? Probably not. However, if you want to buy a 3-carat radiant cut lab-grown versus mine, well, the lab-grown one will cost you 3,500 and the mine one will probably cost you 50,000. And that's when we're talking about pricing, and that's when we see the difference.
Interesting. And Niels, in your collection, you only sell lab-grown diamond jewelry.
Exactly.
Have you done like an analysis of if you use natural diamonds, what would be the price differential in your collection?
I think it's similar to what Eleanor just said. You cannot really, break it down to one number because it is exactly true what she said. It depends so much on the single stone, type of stone that you use. If you have an extremely, large, very, very elaborate cut, maybe even a rare color, it's the differentiating factor in the price can be enormously high. Whereas when you have, pavé, 10 points, 20 points that you set in a pavé line, there might be even almost no difference. So it's really not so easy to give a straight up answer. I think, across the board, maybe in the range that we are mostly create our product, you could say it's around 50% price difference. But obviously then again, as soon as the stones become large and more rare in nature, the bigger is the price difference.
So if I'm a consumer and you cannot see the difference on my wedding or my engagement ring between a lab-grown diamond and a mine-grown diamond, why would I even buy a mine-grown diamond? Why do people still buy mine-grown diamonds?
Do you want to start, Niels?
Obviously, I'm extremely biased. But I think, both is beautiful, and there is no right or wrong. It has simply to do with what you seek as a consumer. And I think, from our perspective as a brand, we love lab-grown diamonds, not only for their advantages when it comes to what we consider our values, sustainability, having a transparent supply chain, etc. But also, they just simply foster creativity in my eyes, because we can use more material, we can create thereby more elaborate designs at a price point that at the end maybe, is also available to a bigger audience for certain items that, before it was a very, very small percentage of the population that was able to afford this product, and so thereby almost creates a new market of strong design, where you can use a lot of diamond and more carat than you could when you do it with mine stones, and have a product that is then also affordable for more people, essentially.
So if I understand you, Niels, then it grows the market. It's not the same consumer that would have bought a big diamond before that is now buying a lab grown, but it opens up to maybe a category of consumers that would not have had the possibility to buy this natural diamond. Do you think that is the main difference? And why are people still investing into mine-grown diamonds?
I mean, I agree 100% with Niels in saying that, again, it goes back to what we were talking on. The point we made on education is when people hear about lab grown and mine, the first thing as a shortcut that comes to mind is, okay, it's less expensive than a mine diamond. Therefore, if I want to get a big rock as an engagement ring, then I'd rather use a lab grown diamond. And I really don't like this approach because it's not one versus the other. Some people can afford grown as much as they can afford mine. Some people who can afford a 4-carat mine diamond will probably choose lab grown because of their lifestyle. They want to be considerate about what is happening in the world, about the sustainability, about the impact of the carbon footprint, and so on and so forth. So there could be so many differences in so many different cases where, yes, long story short, if you don't have enough money to buy a big stone that is a mine diamond, then yeah, you can always get the alternative and get a lab-grown diamond. As a jewelry expert and being in the industry and vouching really for lab-growns, I have my personal case. I got engaged a few months ago and I did get a mine diamond, because it was also the engagement ring that was worn by the great-grandmother of my fiancé. So it also has a storytelling that is linked to emotion. And that's what mine diamonds go back to, is it's something that was created millions of years ago, formed under the earth, and you have the whole thing around it. Some people are not sensitive to this, and you can't blame them for it. They're not in the industry. They're not really related to that. They just want a big rock on their finger. That's fine. On the other hand, I found a beautiful radium cut diamond a few years ago, actually 3 years ago, and I didn't really know what it was. in terms of, okay, what am I going to do with it? Because how am I going to set it? I don't want to create another engagement ring because one day I will have my own and I want it to be filled with emotion. But going back to creativity, I set it in a way that I could have never set it with a natural diamond, a mine diamond. Why is that? Because it would have been way too expensive and I don't have the money to create that creative ring that I wanted with a natural diamond. And even though I have tried to create this setting with a colored diamond, it didn't look right. There was something that wasn't fitting. And then when you think about what you have available in the jewelry industry, if you want a white stone, you have a spinel, you have a sapphire, and that's it. And those two stones, as precious as they are not precious stones. They don't dazzle, they don't shine. You don't have the wow effect that diamonds can give you. And using lab-grown diamonds in a bigger carat size, just like what I've done, is the alternative that expands creativity in things that you could not have done this if you wanted to use mine diamonds. I mean, again, you could have, but the price difference would have been exponential. And security-wise, I wouldn't be that confident to walk around with a 3-carat mine diamond on my fingers, hopping in a plane every 48 hours, versus now having a lab-grown. I'm not going to say cautious or peculiar because it's still some money, but it's not as big of a money and scary on a daily basis.
I think that, if I can quickly jump on that, I think, obviously you're 100% right. And I think jewelry, as you just said, when it comes to the value of the piece on, day by day, jewelry has to be worn. It's not supposed to vanish in a safe and never be seen only once a year. We create products that we want people to cherish every day and to really wear. But apart from that, I think, price and fostering creativity. I think there's another side to this story. As you said, the mine stones, they have been created by Earth in such a long period of time, and that's a beautiful thing. But I think there is the same dimension to lab-grown diamonds as well, because to me they are a product of human ingenuity. They actually also, it's a tech product that essentially solves a lot of problems that we have seen traditionally with the mine diamond industry. It is the supply chain is way more transparent. Theoretically, with us, the stone goes from growth directly to being set, and it doesn't exchange hands so many times. There aren't as many people who need to earn money during that process. You completely, lose all these problematic factors, around ethics, from the point of origin that you might financing a government or a conflict, and the economical impact that you have locally. And I think all these, points together, they create a story as beautiful as we see with a stone from the earth. It's just a different one.
And in luxury and jewelry, storytelling is important. Maybe can I just move to the sustainability points? We mentioned sustainability before, and lab-grown diamonds do have the reputation of being very energy intense in energy consumption. Can you maybe give some examples on you mentioned renewable energy, Niels, and I think Eleonor, you can share some statistics as well on energy consumption overall for lab-grown diamonds. You want to start, Niels?
I think, overall, all lab-grown diamonds, they are a most sustainable product. That is a fact. When you think about how much earth has to be moved, to extract a carat of diamond from the earth, water, obviously there's energy and other factors, but they have been often criticized for their high use of energy, and that is true as well. Not everything is perfect. I think it is a step into the right development, and it can also be continuously improved. Energy is being the most important factor in creation. So, for example, oftentimes certain countries of origin, lab-grown diamonds from China, they are often created with energy that comes from coal, and that doesn't make it a sustainable product at all. So it is very important when you choose a lab-grown diamond that you are sure that it is certified and coming from a source that creates them with renewable energy. And we have recently launched a very interesting benchmark project with another Swiss company called Enil, where we launched the first ever Swiss-made diamond collection, and it is a very small, has been small project at this stage, but extremely interesting when it comes to all the details, because these stones are grown at the heart of Switzerland. It hasn't been done before for a jewelry collection, and the energy basically comes from its own backyard, from the Murter River that runs through this area, Murtertal in Canton Schwyz. Some of the energy comes from solar panels on the roof of the facility. And we can really say, down to the gases that are used, every single factor that goes into production of these stones is known to us and can also be used in storytelling and shared. And that was an extremely exciting project that we were able to do with Partner ML.
Fantastic. And Eleonor, you had some numbers, I think, that you can share with the audience.
Yeah, I had a few numbers. And I mean, again, I agree 100% with what Niels was just sharing. And if we speak numbers, a mined diamond requires 480 liters of water per carat extracted. Lab-grown diamonds uses 70 liters of water to extract or to create a carat. So there's about a 6.9 ratio. Now, speaking about carbon emission, to mine a diamond, a 1 carat diamond, you need 57 kilograms of carbon. For lab-grown diamonds, you need 0.028 grams per carat. So we're not talking about 3, 4, 5. We're talking about millions of differences when it comes to carbon footprint. And one thing that I really want to stress is, as a journalist, I receive press releases on a weekly basis about new jewelry brands that are being created using lab-grown diamonds. And sustainability, traceability, origin has been in every people's mind for the last couple of years. Truth being said, I hate it when I see as the first line, we are not killing any kids. We don't have bloods on our hands. This should be banned from every single place. And the reason I say this is because of the extraordinary amount of work that governments, that companies, that the industry has been able to create in the last couple of years, from the RJC, the Responsible Jewelry Council, from the Kimberley process, when you can actually source and get the full traceability on the diamonds. All these processes have been able to control what is happening in the diamond industry. And you have less and less blood on the hands or corrupted government. They still are. I'm not going to say that our world is perfect, but it has been so contained and so worked on that it is not, to me, it is not a valuable, I wouldn't say argument that can say, well, our lab-grown diamonds are far better than blood diamonds. Yes, but we're not comparing the same things. Lab-growns are done in a way, and mined diamonds are done another way. Now, if you really want to make a comparison and make an argument, to me, it goes down again to education and to creativity. And if you want to use one versus the other, it's yours. But eventually, both will need to live next to one another. And the use of it is going to be different. And we're going to be able to expand and create more things that we were ever able to do just because it opens up a new spectrum where you're not going to be using as much of the natural and the raw product than you can when you're using mined diamonds. And I know I'm going a little fiery on this matter, but when
we don't mind passion. We love passion. So maybe let's move into the industry overall. I mean, I spoke at the beginning about the growth, and we spoke as well that the consumer base is expanding. So it's not that because there is lab-grown diamonds, you take away some market share from the mine-grown diamonds. It depends if there's growing the market overall or if it's cannibalizing. What are the reactions? I mean, we alluded a bit to the different market players, a lot of intermediaries in this space. How do you see that the traditional industry, jewelry industry and diamond industry has been towards and accepting and even promoting potentially the lab-grown diamonds? Niels, you want to start?
Sure, yes. I think overall, maybe you can say, the more traditional maybe a company is, in the diamond industry, the slower probably they are to accept this new material or this disruption. And I think that is seen, in many other industries the same. That's has led to maybe some of the more fashion oriented, more progressive companies being earlier in adopting the concept, whereas the super traditional jewelers, some, still didn't accept the concept. And
did you experience concretely, as an example, any negative reaction or action since you established your company? Or have you been helped by all your market players and partners?
I think, yes, both. Obviously,
examples, no names, examples.
Yeah, and obviously there have been. I can give you many examples. Some people that maybe entered our showroom and gave us a big speech about why it is wrong what we are doing. People calling me with feeling the need to explaining their animosity against it, and also maybe some big players in the Swiss jewelry market, that we had long discussions with, who just simply said, they don't feel or are not sure that lab-grown diamonds are here to stay and that they have a future. And I think that's what most traditional jewelers are doing. They are waiting, seeing how the market is developing, but I think that is obviously the wrong approach. I completely agree with Eleonor. It will be there is place for both, and there will be both, and lab-grown diamonds are here to stay. And the market is only growing, and all the signs are showing it. As lab-grown diamonds not only capture market share, but also there is less and less diamonds mined every year, substantially. So due to the the gaining market share of lab-grown.
And Eleanor, you maybe for macroeconomics.
Sorry, and share with you that you can share with your.
Please, what's up? As I know, maybe for a more macroeconomic space, you want to analyze, but maybe give a few hints already to Niels to help in his daily life.
Yeah, of course. This has become an everlasting debate. And as a journalist, when I first started writing about lab-grown diamonds, it was pre-COVID, so it was more than 5 years ago. And I have seen a lot of a lobby from the big players saying that we're not allowed to talk about lab-growns. Those were fake diamonds, so on and so forth. Truth is, it turned out that the reason why we were undergoing this lobby where we were not really allowed to speak about lab-growns, it's because brands were not equipped internally to check every single diamonds that were coming in. And I'm not talking about the big center stone. I'm talking about more of the pavé stones, where you would find a small percentage of lab-grown diamonds within the mined diamond stock that you would buy. And if a client came into the store and said, "Can you confirm 100% and prove to me that all these diamonds are mined diamonds," they were not able to do so. And now, because of the equipment and the laser machines and this and that, now they can be straight to the client and tell them, "Yes, I can confirm 100% that these are 100% mined diamonds." But before, they couldn't. And that's why there was this lobby, because they were uncomfortable. And I'm not saying that the big brands have the trouble in their supply chain and traceability. They were doing everything right. The problem, and you were talking about this a few minutes ago, is that there's so many people involved in the process, from the mine to all the way to when the diamond lands on your piece of jewelry. There's so many steps in the process that not every single person is as well-intentioned as you and I are. And that's why things can get a little bit lost, and you do not have 100% control on it. So that's the one thing I wanted to stress. The second thing is also, again, repeating myself on the education standpoint, but when culture pearls came into the market, it's the same thing. We're not talking about fake pearls. Culture pearls are natural pearls that are just being helped by the man in the very first stage of the process. And the second argument, and you can give to your clients, is one of the best articles I have read on lab-grown diamonds was written by a journalist in the Wall Street Journal a few years ago. And she was making the comparison between mined diamond and lab-grown diamonds as IVF babies. And it's going to shock, and a lot of people just chomping at my throat. But truth is, the result is the same. It's just the way it's made is different. And again, as an image, you don't introduce your baby as my IVF baby. You're introducing it as your baby. It's just that it was, you needed some help. And I'm not saying that one is sustainable and the other one isn't. It really isn't my point. But in people's mind, because they have such a hard time processing the fact that the two diamonds are chemically, aesthetically the same, it's just one was made under the earth, the other one was laid above the earth. That's it. I know I'm going to have a lot of haters today, but it's the truth.
No. We have to have examples that stick, and this is definitely what it will stick. Thank you, Eleanor, for bringing it up. Let's move to the next topic. Maybe we spoke about jewelry, and let's maybe speak a bit about the watch industry. You know that we do as well a study, a watch industry study yearly. And in the latest editions, when we asked on the industry executives on how the importance of the material in a sustainable space. In the next 5 years. So firstly, they said, well, certified ethical gold is very important. Then they say recycled packaging is important, up or recycled materials, leather alternatives, and only fifth came lab-grown diamonds as being important. But since then, we have seen as well that a lot of brands, you mentioned Oris yesterday, and Breitling some years ago mentioned not using anything else than lab-grown diamonds in the watch industry. Of course, percentage of diamonds on a watch overall, it's rather small. It's only the stones that are being set. Do you see? Is there a reason that even you would still use mine-grown diamonds in watches, or is the future of the watch industry to move fully into lab-grown diamonds? Eleanor, you want to take this maybe?
I think she froze. Anna.
Now I'm here. Yep. Yeah, I and that's something that when we first starting and I first got into lab diamonds and understanding all the spectrum and creativity that it can offer. When you, and Karine, you mentioned properly that when you put diamonds on a watch, it's purely aesthetic. It's not for an investment. It's not for a value proposition. It's purely aesthetic. And if it's purely aesthetic, it means that it's not going to change anything if it's a lab-grown or mine diamond. And because mine are getting older and older, and I'm not going to say that we don't have, like, the supply of diamonds is getting low by the day. We still have diamonds in the world. That's not an issue. But if it's just aesthetic, you might as well use lab-grown diamonds just because of all the things we've been talking about in the last half hour, from sustainability to traceability to origin, et cetera, et cetera. So to me, watch brands should have gone through the lab-grown diamonds integration of into their manufacture long time ago. And yes, Breitling were the first one to really get into this. TAG came along in creating some very like specific dedicated watch, and they did it in a way where, in order to prove that what they did could have never been done with mine diamond, because it would have required such an enormous amount of diamond cut and diamond loss that they could only do it with lab growns. And the third brand that got into it is, yes, Oris. They just came out with their new ProPilot X. It was the collaboration they did with the Muppet Show, and they did Kermit last year. They introduced Miss Piggy this year, and
it's amazing.
It's a really cool watch, and they used a lab-grown diamond and an emerald cut that they set as the 12 index on the dial. And knowing that Oris has been very sustainably implicated in carbon footprint, and they've been actually carbon neutral for the last couple of years, it only made sense for a brand like Oris to use a lab-grown diamonds, because they've never used diamonds in their collections before. So it was another way of saying, okay, we're aligned with our values and what we want to do. And again, it's not because you're adding one diamond that is just a 10 pointers on your dial that your watch is going to cost 10 times what it was. And I think also, and I think I'm going to get hated for that, but I think it's adding diamond on a watch is also a way for brands to get higher prices on their watches, because truth is, it's not because you're adding a few diamonds that the price should be double or triple the size. Again, it's just purely aesthetic. So yeah, truth is, and I'm a firm believer that watch brands who should move towards using more lab-grown diamonds in paving their bezel or their clasp or their bracelet or even their dials.
Makes sense. I think it's clear. Any comment from you, Niels, on lab-grown diamonds not being so important to the watch industry yet? Ethical gold being more important. Is ethical origin of gold important for your clients as well in the jewelry industry?
It definitely is. I think for the watch industry, I mean, as Eleonor also said, it's not, I mean, obviously there are often not a center stone or something similar. So the sizes that are used smaller, I think the difference there is also less than obviously than with jewelry. Sometimes the focus is different. And I think there is something, particularly to the watch industry, that's very interesting when looking at lab-grown diamonds, which is highly calibrated, materials that then also are used inside the watch, maybe for the movement, because there is no wear and tear. There is super interesting cases where that is used, and but also for the outside, maybe for a highly geometric calibrated bezel that is easier to create with lab grown than it would have been if you do it with natural. So I think there is a lot of potential.
Fantastic. So I'd like to move on the topic of trust, and because of course we mentioned education is important, but trust is important, because when you buy a piece of jewelry, when you buy diamonds, it's of course a certain price level, and you want to know what you buy is of course sustainable. It has been sourced in a way that you can trace more and more, and we know that the digital product passport will be introduced in the European Union soon. Eleonor, you referred to various certifications that have been set up, and the market has been really cleaned and processed and is more under control in the diamond space. Do you feel that there is enough regulations as already in the lab-grown diamond space, and or the market needs still some more structure as well because of the new players coming in? And we've seen some players that went bankrupt. I mean, there was a lot of interest, and then we had some low quality producers that maybe have given an image of a lab-grown diamond of not being of the same standard of quality as a mine-grown diamond. What is your take on the overall industry now, and maybe how it will going to evolve?
I think there has, as often when a disruption like that is happening, many new players try or enter the market and seek to capture their share. I think now technology advances, and I think what we will see is that essentially many smaller manufacturers, they might leave the market again, and a few bigger players will essentially really dominate it. I think that's what's going to happen on the production side. But also technology is advancing, and we don't really know yet what is all possible in the field of lab grown. So that is also extremely exciting to see where it will go and what will be possible. And of course, there is a lot of still need to regulate or get certain regulatories in place. It is literally, I think, mimicking some of the things that also were not as transparent or well regulated with the diamond market beforehand. I think yes, there has been a lot has been done by the diamond industry, and yes, there are all kinds of ways, like the Kimberley process, for example. But still, it's not perfect. I mean that's a good example. A diamond from Russia, one of the biggest exporters of gem application diamonds in the world. Still that is not a conflict diamond. Under the Kimberley process, and I think also when you look at simply the countries where most diamonds are coming from, maybe there isn't an active conflict, but maybe you're still financing a government that might not be, that clear with what these funds are used for. No, what I think it is a general problem still. Also in the mine diamond industry, a lot has been done to clean it up, but I think it's far from clean. And obviously the lab grown diamond industry using so much of the process or the infrastructure that that has been in place for mined diamonds as well, they face some of the similar problems. And I mean, it's especially when you have two products who have a different price, and the only thing that determines if it's A or B is a piece of certification. There is also a lot of potential for fraud. I mean, a few years back, already, there were some numbers that in pavé stones, for example, up to 10% of a batch already were lab grown and not decorated as such. So I think, there is on all sides still there is a lot to do, but that's a big advantage for lab grown because we in our case we can literally document from the grower directly to the stone being set, so there is no room for misconduct.
But if I can just add something, and of course I agree with what you said, but I think this chunk of conversation is, in my opinion, a little too far off for the end consumer, because as industry players, we tend to forget that most people don't even know how to read a certificate, whether it's a mined diamond or lab-grown diamond. And before we get into the whole thing, one versus the other, traceability, this and that, when you ask people, do you know what color is your diamond? Well, it's white. No, that's not the answer. DEF are the whitest, purest color when it comes to diamond. Then you have the clarity. Then you have the cat. Then you have the carat. And these are the factors that first and foremost, before asking yourself, do you want to get a lab or mined, what quality do you want? If you're buying a diamond at whatever price and you're not asking what is the color or what is the carat or what is the cut or what is the clarity, you may be buying a diamond that has an HSI color and you're thinking you're making a great deal out of it. Truth is, you have no idea what you're talking about. And if the person in front of you is selling you the diamond and not explaining what you're actually buying, whether it's a lab or a mine, we're already far off the conversation. And I've had people coming to us like, oh, look, I bought this stunning pair of studs. And then I'm looking at the certificate and I'm like, but they're not the same size. A pair should be a pairing, meaning the same color, the same diameter, the same length, the same quality, this and that. And then you're seeing that one is H, the other one is F. And I'm like, where did you buy that? And again, we're not even talking versus lab. We're talking about having the proper and right amount of information, which again goes back to education. And that's the first thing, which is why the GIA has created the 4 C's, which are the four characteristics that can allow you to grade a diamond. And again, now, whether you buy a mined diamond or lab-grown diamond, these are the same exact way of grading a diamond. And you will have the 4 C's. You will see if there's fluorescence in it. You will see if it has a good symmetry. And that's the first thing you need to know before you even think about getting a lab-grown versus a mine. And I guess when you have this, then you can understand more what you were just talking about than traceability and the different mine and this and that. But it's really something I wanted to stress out because it's the first thing you need to know when you buy a diamond. And men are usually way more educated on the subject than women because they know what they paid for. And that's why, and I guess I don't want to conclude on the subject, but which is why when you're considering buying a diamond, well, if you want a mined diamond, do you want it to be more perfect or smaller, or you want it to be bigger and less perfect for the same amount of money? Then based on that, if you really want to have something bigger and you just have this price, then you can consider lab growns. But it's a step into the process where you can make your decision. And I think it's the most important one.
Amazing. And we again go back to education, and education, as you mentioned earlier. So education, of course, but as well, we mentioned about the market being aware, the consumers being aware about lab-grown diamonds. Niels, you referred to Leonardo DiCaprio, who made a big step in making it more well-known. We mentioned some watch brands that are moving into that space. What is needed, according to you, to allow the lab-grown diamonds to penetrate the market even more? Is it influencers? Is it more marketing efforts? Is it bigger luxury conglomerates buying up and then with their marketing power, pushing it into the market? What is required to make this to make the market grow even further? Leonor, or Niels, please.
Yeah, I think it will happen automatically, and we see that more and more brands, more and more companies start to embrace lab-grown diamonds due to their advantages, due to their potential in design. And it has been happening. What you just asked has been happening at a tremendous pace over the last 1-2 years. As I said, 2022, maybe 9 out of 10 people didn't know anything about the concept, and this has changed drastically. And I think it will continue to do so. We see last year's super exciting, some big players in the luxury industry, for example, Prada, they created a specific product cut, a diamond shaped, in the shape of their logo, a beautiful creative example, but also LVMH, they had invested in a grower, earlier on. So I think, the luxury industry as a whole, starts to embrace, lab-grown diamonds and, will continue to do so. And this will raise consumer awareness, more and more.
Makes sense. Fantastic. Good to hear. Leonor, anything to add?
I agree to disagree. On that one, I have to agree with you. Because even though I do agree to some extent, and what you're saying is right, but you're having the perspective as somebody who's in the industry and who knows what's happening. And if I'm on that standpoint, which means a tiny portion of the world, then yes, I can only agree with you. Truth is, it's not the majority. Right now, when we talk about lab-growns, people who are not in the industry, who are not educated on the matter, are completely confused and lost because they will hear, well, lab-growns are fake diamonds. Then they will hear, you can replace your mine diamond with a lab-grown if you don't have enough money. And then they will hear so many different things that they don't know where to stand for. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. They don't know who to trust. And which is right now, which is one of the main reasons why I disagree with you, is as long as there will be too many directions taken into what position and how should we talk about lab-growns, starting with the fact that we're still debating the name of what is a lab-grown. A few months ago, we were talking about real diamonds, and then we're talking about synthetic diamonds. Just the naming of it is giving some bias to people who then are like, but are they real? Are they not real? Are they the same? Are they different? And it's just the number one thing when you think about lab-grown. And until we all agree, and that's why I truly vouch for lab-growns, but I vouch it in a way that it opens up creativity. It opens up a new spectrum of possibility of what can be done. And you cannot reinvent the wheel. Like, you're not going to just all of a sudden create a new technique of setting, a new innovation process, a new stone from the earth. Yes, you will, but it's very minor. Like, it's not like you can create tons of things. But right now, I think the focus should be on having one speech and spreading the world in one direction and not having so many things coming here and there, because then everybody will get lost in the process.
But if I can jump in there, I think also agree to disagree, because I think that is just not realistic, because, it is an extremely complex topic. I mean, it is my firm belief that the value proposition of the diamond as a whole is currently being rewritten. This market is being disrupted to the core, and that obviously that creates all that tension, that creates all these different pieces of information that are out there, especially because there are so many aspects to it. There is the creation, the mining aspect, and it goes all the way down to the product that you create with it. And is it a store of value? How does the price change? And I mean, a lot of the confusion also comes from that the prices did change, and that it did change for both, for mined diamonds and lab-grown diamonds, which has to do with how, the market has been, handled maybe or influenced by a few big players in the past. And I think that will continue. And I hope really, and there I agree fully with you, the more people and the more brands and the more companies embrace the concept of lab-grown diamond and their advantages, obviously, education will rise, more people will vouch for it, will spread the information, and hopefully clear up all these misconceptions that are actually out there. But still, I mean, there are players who try to spread false knowledge, who try to influence this, let's say, global discussion. There are there are kind of lobbying formats created by some people in the industry to really aggressively spread, information that I would not consider true. And I think we will see that for a while, but I think I'm not worried about it because all the signs and everything we've seen in the past, the development of lab-grown diamond has outperformed always what has been forecasted for the next year, for the next 2 years. It always doubled, tripled, all the KPIs that have been forecasted. And I think that will continue. And a good example for this that I often use is, electro mobility. In the beginning, people were super hesitant. The car has been sold, the engine, the burning engine has been sold through emotion, and people were super hesitant. Is this a real car? And everything has changed ever since. And still, electric cars, there is a lot of doubt. There are things that aren't right with the batteries and everything. And still both, develop alongside each other. And there is a lot of pros and cons for both. And I think that is something that we will also see continue for lab versus mind.
Thank you. And I like the passion.
Sorry.
For both of you, that's exactly what we want to hear. No, it's perfect. Let's maybe have a helicopter view and sit back and for a second. What we like to ask our listeners is what is their vision? I mean, we know that the luxury industry is a bit in turbulences currently after years of really thriving. If I ask you, what is your perspective maybe on luxury, jewelry and lab grown for next 5 to 10 years? How do you see the industry evolve and how do you see the results as well, the players evolve? Eleonor, you want to give your first pitch?
Sure. Again, I don't want to repeat myself, but I think the brands... Okay, let me start again. The jewelry industry has been a saturated market when it comes to brands. There's so many brands that get created every day, and there's so many brands that die every day just because of so many different factors, from a business model to production standpoint to holding inventory and sitting on it without having a full retail partner mapped out in the world, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the brands who will eventually come out are the ones who are daring, who are innovative, who are creative, who are creating cool, sexy product at the right price. And again, I'm not saying anything smart. It's just how business works. If you create a brand that's bringing something new to the industry, that is cool, that it's edgy, that is just something that you want to purchase as the end consumer, if it's a lab-grown brand, then great. If it's a Mind Diamond one, then fantastic. But you cannot, and I think a lot of brands who made the mistake, and I'm not talking about your brand, Niels, which is why we're talking today, but a lot of brands who decided to go into the lab grown with the speech that we don't have blood in our hands, we're fully transparent, this and that, they have forgotten the major part is that you need to create a cool product that is properly designed. And if you're not doing this, you can be as transparent, as beautiful as a lab grown that you're using. Your brand is never going to be cool and it's never going to take off. So you cannot minimize what the end consumer is looking for. And I think for the industry to evolve in the right direction in the 1, 10, or 5 years from today are the one who are going to be able to communicate properly with a cool and edgy view in a way that you want to project yourself. You want to say, oh, I want to wear this. I want to be like her. I want to think like him. I really am down to their core values. It resonates in me. And again, whether it's lab grown or Mind Diamonds, you need to think the thinking process should be exactly the same. So it's up to the brands to see how they want to work around, and being able to work with lab grown opens up a far better range of things that can be done versus the others.
Amazing. Niels, what is your view?
Obviously, I have a different perspective, of course, but I fully agree with everything what you said. But I think, essentially, yeah, you're right. You have to create, and that is what we are after, a beautiful product that people want to wear. and want to buy and want to identify with the story that's behind it, with the brand and how this brand conducts itself. And you know, whether it's lab or mind, that is just the most important thing. And I think, though, as you know, the younger generations, and I mean, obviously these numbers grow only as time progresses. You know, they are very interested in how a product is created, where it is created. You know, what is it sustainable or not? Whereas maybe in the past it was not such a big point. And so I do see it as being an advantage for a young brand, you know, like us, to, you know, really strive for setting, you know, new benchmarks in that field and proving that, you know, being innovative takes you further, not only from a design perspective, but also on how you create your products. But then again, you know, design is the most important thing, you know, for a luxury product. And then beyond, of course, also the brand universe that you create as a house, as a brand, and that you embed your products in. And I think, you know, there is no way around that. You know, you have to create and invest strong design. And I think for us, especially maybe for, you know, for we at LOEV, you know, we did that from the start. We always saw lab-grown diamonds as a big boost for creativity, whereas maybe many other players that we see out there, you know, as Eleonor said, it's a super saturated market. You many brands, you know, they just try to leverage the price difference, you know, at the lower end into creating, you know, maybe a product that was already at the lower band, even a little bit lower now because they use lab-grown diamonds. And we are doing the total opposite. We invest, you know, that advantage fully into design, and that has also really led to us now being able to you know, grow internationally and to work with top tier partners and to really move forward.
Thank you so much. I am sad to say that this brings us to the end of our podcast recording, and it was absolutely fascinating. I think as a conclusion, I can say it unleashes passions. I rarely had as passionate speakers as today, and I think it was interesting to see the different perspectives of both of you. What will remain in the memory is probably the IVF baby comparison of Eleonor and the electric car comparison of Niels, which is maybe less controversial. I think it's a disruptive market. It's disruptive, the traditional mine-grown diamond market. It is giving more possibilities. It is opening more creativity. So I think it's absolutely fascinating, and it's just the beginning. I mean, we're listening to your perspective. There's a lot to be done, but back to the fundamentals, Eleonor. If you're not speaking to the consumer, if you're not creating interest, if you're not sexy, as you mentioned, then probably there is no place for you as in any other industry or any other market. So back to market fundamentals overall. It was stunning. It was great. Thank you so much for kicking off the season 5. Eleonor, Niels, I really thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Karine.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for listening to Luxury on Air with Karine Szegedi and Felicitas Morhart. This podcast is provided to you by Deloitte Switzerland and the Swiss Center for Luxury Research. If you've enjoyed this episode, you can leave us a 5-star review. If you're keen to stay up to date on what's trending in the luxury industry, don't forget to subscribe. As always, you can find more information about the current episode in the show notes. We wish you all the best. Until next time.